Battle Through the Heavens, Chapter 111. Young warrior joins the expedition into the mountains. With the legendary Blood Lotus essence finally secured, Xiaoyan has laid the groundwork for his future survival against the heavenly flame. As a new dawn breaks, he shifts his focus back to the relentless discipline required of a true cultivator. In the stillness of the early morning, he prepares to push his limits once more before venturing into the unknown.
The quiet night slipped away. At the first crack of dawn, Xiaoyan opened his eyes. Months of living in the wild had hardwired his internal clock. A full night of rest had washed the ache from his joints. He felt a fresh surge of energy beneath his skin. He sat up and crossed his legs. His fingers moved through familiar patterns, locking into the seals of his cultivation. The early morning air was thick with energy. He knew Douqi cultivation was like rowing against a heavy current. If he did not push forward, he would drift back. Only the stubborn survived.
His breath slowed and steadied. The space around him rippled like a disturbed pond. Faint waves of Douqi pulsed in the air. After the brutal training of the previous days, Xiaoyan's skin acted like a dry sponge. Every pore on his body snapped open and closed in a hungry rhythm. He pulled the swirling energy deep into his chest. Most of the Douqi followed his breath into his body. It moved through his meridians, burning off impurities before settling into the Douqi vortex at his core.
He practiced for an hour. When the sun finally climbed high enough to flood the room with light, Xiaoyan broke the seals. He exhaled a long, thin plume of gray air. He snapped his eyes open. A flash of yellow light sparked in his pupils, then vanished into the dark iris. He stretched his back and listened to his spine pop like dry wood. A satisfied grin spread across his face. At this rate, he would hit 5-star Douji within 2 weeks. The hard work was paying off. Today, he would enter the magical Beast Mountain range. He hopped off the bed and splashed cold water on his face. Then he turned to the massive black sword leaning against the wall. He stood before the weapon and took a deep breath. He hooked his fingers around the hilt like iron claws. He planted his feet wide and grunted as he pulled. Lift! His Douqi surged. His forearms swelled with enough power to snap a tree, yet the heavy blade rose only inches at a time. His face flushed a deep, bruised red. His breath came in ragged hitches. With a final low growl, he heaved the metal slab onto his back. The weight nearly drove him into the floorboards. He ground his teeth together until his jaw ached and forced his legs to straighten. He wiped cold sweat from his forehead and let out a dry laugh. The weight was terrifying. He patted the black metal behind him and walked out the door. He had spent days adjusting to the burden. Now he could walk without the ground shaking under every footfall. The magical Beast Mountain Range was a graveyard for the careless. Ferocious beasts roamed the thickets. A man alone was just a snack. Most travelers entered in large mercenary caravans or tight-knit groups. With his current strength, Xiaoyan could handle a rank 1 beast at most. Going in solo was suicide. Yao Lao could protect him, of course, but the old man had made the rules clear before the training began. Unless Xiaoyan was seconds away from death, Yao Lao would not lift a finger. Every problem and every fight belonged to the boy alone. Xiaoyan hated the rule, but he understood it. A hawk raised under its mother's wing would never master the sky. Only those who walked through the fire could find their true potential.
The town gates were already swarming with mercenaries. Men shouted over one another, trading rumors about the mountain paths. The hirelings here fell into 3 camps. First were the organized corps. Only 3 such groups operated in Qingshan town. They had hundreds of men, all Doge or higher, led by Do-Shi captains. They were the law in this territory. Second were the temporary squads. These men banded together for a single job and split the coin afterward. They were messy and untrustworthy. Finally, there were the lone wolves. These individuals were usually dangerous men with enough tricks to keep themselves alive. Zhao Yan stood in a quiet corner and watched. He needed a group that looked professional.
Just then, the town square erupted in a roar of excitement. A man in a silk robe climbed onto a platform and shouted for attention. The 1,000 Medicine House was heading into the mountains to harvest herbs. The little fairy doctor would be leading the way. They needed 50 guards. Every man had to be at least a 2-star doge. The mention of the little fairy doctor turned the crowd into a mob. Men shoved and kicked to reach the recruitment desk. Xiao Yan didn't hesitate. He put his shoulder down and plowed through the sea of sweating bodies. The recruiter looked down at his parchment.
"Only one spot left,"
he shouted. Xiao Yan reached the front, breathing hard.
"I will take it,"
he said. The middle-aged recruiter looked at the boy. Xiao Yan looked barely 17. The man frowned.
Little brother, we only take 2-star doge.
Where did this brat come from?
A large mercenary yelled from the back.
Go home and grow some hair before you play with the big boys.
Don't waste our time, kid.
Another man growled. Xiao Yan didn't look back. He ignored the insults and stepped toward a thick tree near the platform. It was as wide as a man's waist. He tightened his fist. A faint yellow glow of Do-Chi wrapped around his knuckles. He took a short, sharp breath and drove his fist into the trunk. The wood shrieked and shattered. The massive tree tipped over and crashed into the dirt, sending a cloud of dust into the air.
"Is that enough?"
Xiao Yan asked. He wiped the wood dust from his hand and looked at the stunned recruiter. The man blinked, his mouth hanging open. He nodded quickly.
That will do. Your talent is incredible. A 2-star doge at your age is a rare thing. Welcome aboard. The pay is 500 gold coins. You get half now and the rest when we return. Your job is to keep the herb gatherers alive.
Xiao Yan took the coins. He didn't care about the money. He just needed a safe path into the heart of the mountains. The rejected mercenaries grumbled and walked away, but many of them lingered. They watched Xiao Yan with narrow, calculating eyes. A 17-year-old with that much power was something they had never seen in Qingshan town.